The phlegmatic child. So the phlegmatic child is noticeable with this roundish sort of look that they keep. They, remembering that they have this association with the glandular system through the physiology, they tend to keep the baby fat a little bit longer, have a heavier build and this roundish quality. They are normally very content children. It's interesting because the phlegmatic part time of life is the babyhood time. From birth to 7, we call that the phlegmatic time of life. And, it's sort of that content, happy time. So they tend to be pretty easy children to raise. They can tend to be a bit lazy. At least that's the perception that we have of them. They're usually very easygoing. They make a good friend, and they're not easily flappable. So they don't get riled up about things. The thing about the phlegmatic is that they take in what's coming at them, and they just sort of they're also on the introvert side, so they take it in and they just sort of put it away, and parents can get a little concerned that they're not sure what they're feeling. And they also don't tend to be share a lot through words, so you might not quite know what's going on in there, and then will come the day where they just blow. Because it's a little bit like a pressure cooker, and that's just the way they operate. They sort of builds up, builds up, builds up, and then they'll blow. And when they blow big, and then it's back to this calm sort of easygoing self. So don't be afraid of those blow ups. It's just letting off a lot of steam. And they're patient children. They're loyal. They're usually very, very affectionate, and consistent. We kind of count on them in the classroom to be the steady beat. While you've got the other ones sort of all over the place. They just, they'll just sort of come, they're there, they do it, and they bring such beautiful kindness to the classroom. um, they enjoy peace. They really like it when things are peaceful. They don't really like to conflict. They love comfort and their food. So one of the funniest stories I have about a phlegmatic child, when I was teaching many years ago in Hawaii, it was a second grade, and we had a fire alarm, fire drill, and it went off. And suddenly this little boy, we're going out to the lineup where we go, and he's just absolutely in tears. And he's such a happy child. I'd actually really never seen him have a meltdown ever. And I thought, oh, the alarm startled him. But so I went up to him and I'm like, what's up? And he's just sobbing and he can barely get it out. And he goes, what if my lunch burns down? And it was just the sweetest thing. He was just really, really concerned that he might lose his lunch. So they tend to, be the slow eaters and really enjoy food. They can be, wonderfully involved with that in the family. They tend to love to cook and be a part of making meals. Um, they love routine, and they count on it. They do not like it when the routine is broken. So very important during this interim time, if you have a phlegmatic child at home, to quickly create the routine. They tend to like school because they know what's going to happen. And the phlegmatics are always the one that we have to warn them when there's a field trip coming up, because it makes them a little anxious if the routine's going to be different. So rituals and routine are very, very important to them. They thrive on chores that involve just being the same. So like they can be the ones to set the table, and they'll do it well every night for 15 years. Giving them just those kinds of chores that are consistent, the same, the folding the laundry, they can really be engaged in that. They have the challenges with the phlegmatic are that they can be quite stubborn, really root in if they don't want to do something. And this often happens around new situations. So they're the ones that, they'd be as happy as can be just to come home every single day and not try anything new after school, just hang out. And it is important with the phlegmatic that you actually, give them a little nudge here and there. And especially when it comes to trying something new, because it's just that initial getting out the door that's hard for them. And they will not be the ones to go, oh, yeah, I want to do this and I want to go do that. Um, so that can really help them, by because once they get out and once they get going, they're usually fine. And it's important for them to find something that they're interested in. They can kind of skate along and not show a lot of interest in much of anything. But once you find that thing, it can really support them to sort of rise. They tend to have low energy, and they dread getting going. So they, normally when it's school time, they're the ones we hear from parents where it's just really hard to get going in the morning. Once they get here and once they dive in, they're fine. It's just that initial getting going. So during this interim time working with your phlegmatic child, it's going to be really important that you actually have a routine and that they know that we're going to start at this time. It's just the starting that's hard, because they would rather just sort of fluff up and be comfortable, and they don't want to rush. So it's important to give them plenty of time to finish their work, but it's important to give them a start time. I find with the phlegmatics at school, it's just the getting going. Once they get going, then you can hardly get them to stop. So once they get going, they're great students because they're very consistent, and they plot away at it and they tend to finish things. And then it's just hard for them to stop. So again, it's just the diving in that's hard. It's important that they know when their cozy downtime will be if you have a really hectic life, and making sure that any warning, any changes in routine, they have a warning for that. Don't push them, don't rush them. It's fruitless. You'll just get that digging in deeper from them. And humor can really be effective with a phlegmatic child. They're kind of a sleepy, and they fall asleep and things, and when humor can wake them up a little bit and bring them out. It's important with the phlegmatic child to model interest in others and the world. They tend to be very much sort of that introverted quality of dreaminess, and don't often have a lot of awareness of what's going on outside of them. And if you model that, it sort of brings them out a bit. And as they get older, they tend to transform this energy, and they move towards the more that melancholic quality of having empathy for others. But that's just not something that comes naturally to them from their temperament as a child. Like I said, important for every once in a while for them to learn to take a risk. It's just the unknown that's hard for them, and to know that, at some point whatever's inside of there will bubble up, and at those moments really good to listen to them. You won't get that usually on a daily basis. So they're really wonderful children to raise because they are so easy. And I think it's just that understanding of how they move, especially when you're setting up routines in learning with them. It might get a little frustrating that they're not getting going. So it is important, like I said, for them to have a start time, and for them to make sure they're not putting things off. So that's our phlegmatic child. And please come to the Zoom room if you want to chat more next Wednesday. All right, enjoy.